The Extinction Agenda, comics and movies of the 80s, 90s, and beyond.
Who knows? What's in the news, gentlemen? Anything in the news? Citing, I hear there's an election. Is that true?
Yeah,
It
fuck
is
the
true.
news.
It's happening.
Yeah, Biden's got a landslide anyway, man.
Even if he does, we're about to have the same conversation that everybody's having, but
What's that?
Yeah. Is he gonna step? Is Trump gonna step down?
no, all that electoral college shit. Like, it doesn't matter if he wins the popular vote. I believe that Biden's going to win the popular vote, but is he going to win those quote-unquote battleground states and shit?
Oh yeah, he's gonna win the battleground states, but then Donald may take it to a referendum with his newly elected greasy, hideous Senate, and then maybe just stay the Presidente King for 14, 20 years, maybe. Hard to say.
He can't last that long.
Well, with today's
Old man
well-known
Trump.
treatments, yeah.
I don't know, man. He could last as long as Spider Jerusalem, like an unnatural 100-year-old sweaty orange human fucking can of click.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see. Speaking of Spider, today we're going to be talking about Transmetropolitan, which I didn't realize named after a Pogue song, which
I didn't know that.
yeah, I listened to it today, and it's kind of funny. It makes the book seem goofy. I don't know. Maybe I'll put the song in the maybe the opening credits or something.
I like when you do that. You know, sometimes I have a big laugh when you sneak in a clip of a movie, especially from a topic that we were discussing.
Right.
You got me one there. One I meant to call you or text you, but I forgot what it was. But one actually made me like laugh out loud.
I hope it was from Halloween.
What's that?
I hope it was from the Halloween episode. Maybe fuck, I can't even remember what that guy was saying. God. You still there?
Was it Big Joe or the Joe Grizzly?
No, I didn't know. It was the crippled father yelling at his wife before the kids.
Oh man, I didn't even get there yet. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry about that.
I might be a couple episodes behind on the drive listening.
Oh, I see. Anyway, Spider Jerusalem, Transmetropolitan, named after a Pogues track, which whatever, written by our good friend Warren Ellis. Go fuck yourself, Warren. And Darick, illustrated by Darick Robertson.
He's in the good books, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he doesn't. I mean, I don't know what he knew. You know, that always makes me wonder. But at the end of the day, I don't really guess it really matters. You know, he's blameless.
To Darick Robertson?
Yeah, I mean, he must have known. Like when I don't know. Either way, maybe he's a victim. Like,
what do you mean? You think he's an accessory to womanizing?
Well, I'm thinking of the cover of Lonely City with that image of Rachel, Carly, and Lauren threesome. He drew that as sort of a wink and a nod to what was going on in the Warren Ellis forums back then.
No.
Absolutely no.
Oh,
these are fictitious fantasy scripts that are like teen boner fantasies, and he was given the boner script and drew it. You don't think he was an accessory?
I don't like. I think incidental accessory. I mean, like Chris can back me up on this. It's absolutely true.
Yeah, on the website that the women launched, they detail that story in some detail, and this woman just talks about how she was like part of this quote performative lesbian kiss, and they sent it to Warren, and then it showed up in Transmet. But I mean it's possible that he just said, hey, put this in there, and like handed him a picture and said, okay, like
well, that's I know what I mean. Like,
yeah,
it's hard. It's an incidental accomplishment. Like he's inadvertently furthering Warren's personality cult when he does these things, and it's all throughout there's lots of little Easter eggs that you throw at the book. Some of it referencing the Warren Ellis forums or the Engine or whatever the fuck it was called at that time.
I just have the hardest time. I have the hardest time believing that there is like a waterfall of babes that succumb to the magic wiles of a fat old piece of shit pervert to the point where like they were brainwashed in some kind of mystical fucking cult. Like you have to accept some blame as an adult, and I just don't see this guy having this kind of mystical wordsmithness to like brainwash at that level. It seems ludicrous, but maybe fuck, I don't know. Maybe.
I loved Warren Ellis. I loved him. This really hurt me finding out these things about him. I
don't even like him. I don't think I find him kind of wordy and smarmy. And actually, this kind of felt really immature. And the best parts of this book were actually the smutty, funny parts more than any kind of message he was trying to convey, which just seemed like mad rants more than anything. I mean, it seemed like a little. I mean, I know a lot of his Hunter S. Thompson sort of. I mean, just sort of like spoofing off that almost.
Well, I think as we get into the book, I got some ideas, some how you can point out where Warren is both sort of confessing, I think, to his behavior, and also sort of projecting a sort of gentle humanist madman vibe through the character of Spider Jerusalem, and I think that is what people latched onto, and I know for certain that it's what I latched onto as a younger man, and I can see a young woman, for the very same reason, one flattered by the attention of someone who is quote unquote famous. I mean, they all
and quote unquote a genius. Like he was like he was a big deal in comics at that point.
Yeah. This is at the like 1997. He still hadn't done the Authority, but that shit was coming. Like he was still writing Marvel comics. But yeah, he was the new hot Vertigo writer, and so he gets a little bit of that Dreamweaver magic.
But I agree with James. Like looking back, like I love this when I was 18. This comic is adolescent as shit. Like, and it's still funny at times. Like I still enjoyed it in some ways, but man, it's not as good as I remembered.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear you guys say that because I think this book fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, oh man, I've read way worse books than this.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
Don't let me even go there. But the overall, I mean, like I dislike the parts that maybe are supposed to be the preachy words of someone trying to like express their own genius or what they feel like is their own genius, and then like the funny thing is I disconnect and glaze over that. So like I'm thinking of the issues where the Jim Lee covers start.
Okay.
In that secondary book,
Lonely City. So.
Yeah, Lonely City. And it's just like it was terrible. Like I know I had a hard time with it, and I mean I didn't feel like I keyed into the story until they started doing like really dumb shit and going to the protests and sort of solving the murder and stuff. I don't know.
After the first 3 issues of Lonely City, I was ready to write off the series, and then I mean the parts of the police protests were actually pretty good, and it ends on a high note for what we covered. I guess we should mention that we covered issues 4 to 12, and then 25 to 30.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. Like, is like he when he I don't know if he ever gets over himself, but when he gets over himself to the point where he's like actually like pushing an action story through, or like a sort of like a narrative, and he has like a couple different things winding through it. He is great. He's the guy he's supposed to be.
100%.
In terms of a comic writer. Like, not, I mean, we're not defending anything. Warren's piece.
Let's put all this aside. Like Warren's he's good, and I wouldn't want to, I don't know, disparage his craftsmanship. Let's say that. Like, this book sucks, but Warren doesn't suck as a craftsman, generally.
Yeah.
Do you guys get the feeling that maybe he like so at that point, Lonely City, he's writing. I think he's writing Planetary. He's writing Authority. I have a feeling that he was just overtaxed and just like, I know what to do with Transmet. I'll just dump my stupid ranting and like that'll fill up 32 pages and fuck. At the end of the day, that's a comic banged out in 2 days.
And I think it's an opportunity for him to, in the same way that like Invisibles and Sandman were vehicles for whatever it happened to be that the authors were thinking about or working through at that time. I think Transmet is similarly positioned like that. Like Warren's very interested in what the future is like, or at least he certainly was. And I don't know, this vision of the future is, I find it a little not frustrating, but like it's basically a world in which genetic engineering and nanotechnology and telecommunications have not produced the singularity, but have instead just kind of proliferated subcultures and created more things to fuck and eat.
That's great. Yeah, it's commercialized. Yeah. It's a capitalist. Like, in fact, just to kind of add to that, like one of the things I really like about this series is that it reminds me of the sort of futurism of Philip K. Dick, where it's like technology is going to be there. It's fantastic things are possible, but it's going to be perverted by the market. Your whatever you think is going to be great from it is going to just end up biting you in the ass. Like your door won't let you pass unless you pay it money or whatever. Like just like it's always going to be disappointing. And this series definitely has that vibe, and I really like that.
Yeah, there's something to be said about it. And and then he can, but at the same time he can also like, it's not about the future exactly, it's about the present in the way that all not all science fiction, but I mean like science fiction often is. At the very least, Warren is explicitly in his newsletters and whatnot claims that that's what he's up to. So like, in one of the things, like he's suddenly talking about man boy love, like Nambla. Which in a future like this, fine. I'm not defending pedophilia. It just struck me as like in a world this weird and this dangerous, is this something? Would this be something that people would rant about? But no. But it's definitely something that Warren might rant about the present day.
Yeah, I like that. I like that what you guys were talking about in terms of the kind of bleakness of what like panned out to be like his future, and I think that a lot of the big appeal of this whole story and Spider comes from this like, it's a gritty way to live. He lives as he's like whatever, he's the gonzo journalist, right?
Yeah, he's Hunter S. Thompson in the future.
And it's but I mean like his character is portrayed with like there's no sugarcoating it. He's invincible. In the books we read, at any rate, there's no even when he's in danger, he muddles through it in this hilarious way, and nothing bad happens to him. It's like he just sort of skirts everything. Being able, there's this like, I don't know. There's kind of a funny, like there's an exciting and funny vibe to just imagining yourself being able to say whatever the fuck you want and just enjoy your life and fuck around and make money somehow doing that. And then there are people that do that even now on YouTube. I think of that guy Bob Maroney that does those voiceovers for stupid sports clips and talks shit about people doing cocaine and just lives in this fucking weird lifestyle zone and wakes up hungover every day and because he has got a stupid voice. I mean, congratulations to him. I mean, I guess that's the dream, right? I don't know.
One thing that I think of when you say that, I'm thinking about like when you talk about the invincibility of Spider and also his own, like, I'm going to call it obnoxiousness. At the very end of the thing when the those fucking Zero Tactile guys are trying to kill him, And he comes into the office and I am returned from the grave. Let the day be known hereafter as Easter, and stuff your kids with sugar and caffeine and thanks. And Royce is like, Spider, and then that headless baby attacks him.
He tosses it out the fucking window.
Tosses it out the window, and he's like, oh, my God. And it's just like, it's like a two panel payoff, but it's hilarious.
I was just gonna quote that. That's my favorite, like one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, but that's it. I mean, he's just like this obnoxious force that is able to think quick on his feet and navigate this dangerous future. He's just totally at home in all of it.
And one of the things I really love about like the way it's handled is like, so we've talked about it when we did Planetary, that there are all these kind of Warren Ellisisms, and he just kind of goes off and rants. But in this comic, for the most part, it's really grounded in Spider's character, and everybody fucking hates him. Like Royce hates him, like Shannon hates him, like just like, I mean, not like in that way of like, oh God, this guy's so obnoxious, and like they're always like riffing off him, and it's like whatever excesses there are in his attitude, it's kind of toned down in the fact that everyone's making fun of him too.
It does make his celebrity bearable, like his just fucking garbage. Like whatever Warren has Spider produce, it's just embarrassing. Like being the best, he's smiling sinisterly, and you're like, this isn't good writing. This is like not by any standard is this like a celebrity columnist.
My name's Spider Jerusalem, and I love nothing more than dead dogs. Like fuck off.
Yeah. So he does need to be brought down a peg. Sorry, James, you wanted to say something?
No, I was just gonna say I was gonna sort of agree on that train and just say that the there's also like there's like a sort of a loneliness to him, there's a dark angle there where he's depressed, and he's human, and he's lonely, and he's broken down, and he doesn't ever make a physical or emotional really connection that could be constituted as like a valuable friendship or love. And that kind of drags itself through the story too, that humanizes him, I think, and makes him tolerable, because he's not like, you don't think that you think he's invincible in the story, and the way his obnoxiousness sort of like is all encompassing and empowering, but there's still like a sad side to this where like he just seems weak and human also, which I think maybe makes him more tolerable as well. But
yeah, there's some good moments, especially in the last issue when they come back and they've like witnessed the police massacre, and he's like, here, drinks for my assistants, drinks for me, and he's just smashes his glass and his hand's shaking. He's like, I'm fine, fuck off, drink your drink. It's like very like a good reaction, like that's sort of like bravado covering the sort of anxiety he's feeling.
But I think I would love to have a smash cut of all the various times that Spider in this story is typing away furiously at this column, and then goes on the balcony and either sighs or cries or smokes a cigarette. Like it's just like it happens quite a bit, and it kind of, I don't know, maybe on a monthly basis over the course of 5 years it wouldn't stand out so much. But but I mean, I guess it makes sense for a writer. You finish your thing, you have your cigarette. But I like when he punches himself in his own dick, because
he does that a few times.
Yeah, because women keep rejecting him. What else?
James, you mentioned the loneliness, but I think one angle that I really like is that his like mentorship relationship with Shannon, and it's got a bit of that like Wolverine. They talked about in once in J.A. Miles explain the X-Men, how like Wolverine always has this relationship with like teenage girls, and it's like never it's never like he's never interested in them. It's always a sort of mentorship, like father sort of thing. It's really endearing and kind of brings that character to like the humanity to it. And I mean, there's a bit of that to a limited scale in this, because I think Spider's also gross and like sexually harasses Shannon. Like he says, like, so when you're just standing there, you look like they're two soccer balls nailed to a pole. You're like, that really doesn't fly, man. That's not a cool thing to say to your employee. But but he's like, but at the same time, like he does have some nice character moments with her, like when he offers, she's gonna go check out her boyfriend be uploaded into the Singularity, and he's like, oh, you're gonna write the story, I'm gonna give you the byline, this will be your first gig. So yeah, I really enjoyed that angle of it.
You know what really sucks too for Warren and for this body of work in the future is that like any of that, like where you think that like, you know, like I'm thinking back to one of the, you know, and I mean like this was a cheap way to touch your audience when he did the story of the 13-year-old girl being raped by
Yeah,
a
that was a
brother.
really that
The,
was a
yeah,
shitty issue.
that bothered me. And
Yeah.
it's fine, and I don't know where he decided, like if he just made that up as purely fiction or if he got it from like a news story or something. And then we had Darick draw the little stuffed animals that the brother gives her every time they fucking have some kind of gross sexual relationship, and then he commits suicide, whatever, scarring her as a kid emotionally. And Spider hates that, and Spider's so down on that, and some of that is what makes the character cool, like you say, that ability to like empathize with women and sort of have this partnership that's kind of like a mentor or father figure, when you know, and he's protecting them in sort of a way, like sort of sheltering them that way. But like now that Warren's in this situation that he's in, that kind of just doesn't, it's not a good look. Like
Yeah.
it's not even believable anymore. And
Absolutely.
it's taken a little bit of fun and piss out of the character, and I
think,
hate that. That sucks for him. I mean, but I mean that's what you do to yourself, I guess. I don't know if that, maybe that's just me.
It's even more sinister than you're letting on.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that girl, like I'm certain that he knew a girl like that. Like I'm not absolutely certain. I don't know her name, but you know, like Warren, in again reading the stories with the women, you know, some of them were ill or suicidal and you know, prone to manipulation. Or vulnerable, sorry, to manipulation as a consequence, and some of them died, and I get the impression that that's him through Spider speaking to that girl and her experiences, and you know, saying I'll protect you, at the same time that he very well might have manipulated her, and as he was doing so with many other women.
I have the same feeling. That was a gross issue.
Yeah, and you also have to think to yourself too, like, I mean, going down like this kind of a road or this kind of thought train, or trying to gain any kind of insight into this is very difficult, hearing different sides of a story and seeing an online lynching and so on and so forth. But I mean, it seems to me like if that's the case, like if this is semi-realistic and if some of this is like just expression, Warren seems to maybe have any number of mental illnesses, to go along with whatever mental illnesses and things that these women had, and this seems like a train wreck, and it's predatory behavior. But like, I mean, like there's some sick people involved on all sides, and that's a mess to even consider.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure what you're trying to draw from that. You know, like I agree that it's a mess, but like, I don't know, like I wouldn't, I think it's a false equivalency. You know, we don't need to really like go over all of this, but I do think it's a false equivalency to, you know, one, I don't think Warren's mentally ill. I think he's a guy who writes all the time. He, you know, like I've talked about, you know, this is the same thing we give Chuck shit for. You know, like your biases and your subconscious leaks out as you constantly are writing. You know, like this is his job 24/7, and this character is clearly meant to be in some way him.
Right.
And you know, and I'm thinking of the example of, you know, that he has that assistant, and she's the one that sets him up and cancels his insurance and all that shit. In Dira, Ataturk.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and he doesn't, you know, and he's like, did you ever have, you know, Royce, the editor, he's like, you know, did you ever have, you know, he's like, no, I don't recall her. Why? Oh, just wondered. Who did you take to Miss Jones Theater? You know, and he's like, no idea. Some student. She went nuts. Never saw her again. And like Warren, in, you know, again, I can't help but see the present in the past. He's talked about, you know, like the, you know, like in some of the stories, it's just him in his defense, or in his self-defense, he's just like, I made some mistakes in the past, and I hurt some people. He makes vague references to that sort of
right.
thing.
And Spider just glazes over it, right?
Yeah,
he doesn't want to relive it.
that's
It's
horrific.
like an excuse, and he's able to just like bury it, and it's disturbing.
And it's really, I mean, she's a 16-year-old girl. She's like, I was 16 and I was turned into a porn star by Spider Jerusalem. It's like, oh, that's a damning moment. Like, that's even within the context of the story. We didn't even have to talk about Warren, but like this guy's not a hero at this point. This is like the story. That's like a Cassidy moment. That's like this guy's a piece of shit. Like, what's gonna happen now? And Royce kind of has that moment of like the look on his face is like kind of like figuring things out. But I'm not sure if that ever goes anywhere. And I never finished the series because I don't
think so.
Like,
it's very, like, I mean, it's a nihilistic story. This guy's life is nihilistic, basically.
Yeah, but he's celebrated as a hero throughout. I think this is.
Well, he's trying to celebrate himself as a hero, and I think that's what I'm trying to find or say in this is that, like,
that's a good point.
Is that like his celebration of his own mind and himself as a hero is really lost a lot of weight because of what's happening, and because of because of what's been outed that he's done and is capable of, and then as like sort of a byproduct of that, like this particular work that was sort of his, like, his swan song is it just looks really sick and sad as a result. I don't know.
Yeah,
it would look worse if it wasn't so. Like, it would look better if it wasn't so embarrassing. Like let's focus on.
You mean just the? Oh no, it's yes. I don't know. I mean, so many weird elements.
It's very indulgent at times.
Yeah, I think just far too, and maybe it's the point, the bits that I selected, maybe. But I guess so. Here's the stuff that's very good, or that we enjoyed the pace of, with the police protesters and whatnot. I think like that's
and the early run too.
Right.
Sorry,
the dog.
Like the first like 6 episodes, like the Stompanato thing, like that's fun.
Yeah. And I think it's a little denser early on, but later on, Warren's gonna embrace that decompressed style that he sort of developed. And I just remember it being like so light, it just became kind of empty. And then fizzled off, and like his confrontation with the Smiler, the other, the new president, and like he's constantly fucking throwing grenades into the sky and running down, and I'm just like, this is so embarrassing. Like, Warren, why did you write that? Why did you think that would be good?
What is like a product of the time too? I mean, it was.
We were looking for fun. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I was just gonna say one thing I think really holds up well, and like sort of like the appeal of this series still for me is just Darick Robertson's art, and I almost feel like there's 2 halves of this where like the world of the city is fucking incredible, and like there's so much detail in every panel, and like there's like just the technology that you see, like all these weird things happening in the background of the city.
The grocery store.
What happened in the grocery store?
Just the weird shit that was on the shelf.
Oh, right. Yes. Ebola Cola and shit like that. Yeah. And there's like, it's exciting whenever whenever Spider has that wolf grin, or like when he seizes onto something, or like just like even just the way he looks when he rants, like it's so like it looks so cool, and like Robertson brings so much life to this comic, and I think it's like some of the good vibes we have towards it are like really his contribution.
I think so. Like a lot of these jokes not have landed without someone who could like express emotion so well, and draw pretty much anything you put your mind to.
Watching Stompanato blind and just like slobbering gnarled blood and just like
seizuring.
Heave himself off the side of that dam when he thinks he's got Jerusalem, and fucking, like if you asked me to fabricate that, to draw that, I'd be like, how the fuck am I supposed to do that? Like, and somehow like I managed to see the whole thing as if I'm standing on the side of that dam with Spider. It's like just a testament, if you're gonna, you can just take the obscure and make it come to life, or the any dumb shit you come up with, it can be brought to a cinematic life almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, he picks great angles. I'm looking at Stompanato jumping off the dam right now, and it's like, like just so that way you can see the whole thing, and you can see how Spider and the other guys really don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Don't fucking care. And then he's behind Spider, and then and then otherwise everything's really it's silent. There's no words, and Spider grabs his wife's head, looks at it, throws it off the dam. It's great. You're right, Chris. This is great comics.
Yeah, it's Robertson's show in a way, and for that reason alone, worth revisiting.
Yeah.
I also really like the way cops are portrayed in this story.
Yeah.
They're just awful. They're crooked. They have bad detective work. They're actually literally portrayed as animals at one point. It's just a mess, and I just find it funny. I mean, I know, if you're a cop person, you might not find that kind of humor is black, but it's a funny take on that. But I mean, I guess that goes down to when you're making that kind of a bleak future. You everything has to be poison and corrupt in a funny, cheesy way,
Yeah.
Even the president's relationship with the Secret Service.
The president shot himself. Help!
We have to get out of here. But they're talking about the president's. It's early on, and they're talking about how the I don't know, something about the Supreme Court was blackmailing him or something like that, and the Secret Service kept charging him, but he couldn't afford it, and so he's been renting security. Just every governmental authority is super corrupt, comically corrupt, cartoonishly corrupt, but still recognizable.
The insurance companies.
Yes. Oh, so you don't have insurance?
Oh, Wilson movie sending officers. Oh shit. It's just so fucking. It's not. There's just no winning in that world.
No. That was an awesome fight scene too in I think it's issue 10. When the thugs come to his apartment to kill him, and it's just 19 pages or something like that of just brutal graphic violence of people getting holes blown in their head and faces smashed against cupboards, and
it was awesome.
It's awesome. Yeah.
In a row of smash, and it just zooms in further and further each time.
Yeah.
This is just getting increasingly mushed.
It's visceral,
and it's funny too because he's Spider's not in any way like a proficient killer. That's the thing that's the invincibility. Again, it's just this world. No, like James said earlier, is he's so comfortable in this future, and he just he's able to operate in a way where even when absolute anarchy is happening, he's just sort of fumbles through and comes out the other side.
Yeah, even after he murders that guy, he throws up. Then and then it's another it's good. Warren knows. I will say this is the Darick Robertson show, but it's also Warren knows how to use him. Because there's the panel of Spider throwing up in the sink, and then there's a panel of just Spider kind of hunched over and looking, and he just looks okay, now what? And it's all communicated, and Warren knows that Darick can do that.
Yeah,
and
he trusts him.
Yeah, a different writer might not have included something like that. They might have
the
just
anti-Chris Claremont.
He's the anti. Yeah, in a lot of ways. Anyway, what? Okay. Well, I think we've already talked about some of our favorite parts. Do we got any other favorite parts? Parts that stuck out.
Well, I mean the initial confrontation with the Beast, so Spider kind of gets back into the city and realizes that the Beast is there, and he harasses him, or they run into each other at a bar first, right, or something, and the Beast kind of explains his philosophy, and but then they go and hound him at the convention, and Spider's there with his bowel disruptor, which is that's a really fun weapon, and
I think it's the other way around. I think he shoots him with the bowel disruptor, and then later on in a trade we didn't read, in between, I think he has a meeting with the Beast, and that 50% thing speech is given.
Maybe.
Yeah.
The bowel disruptor is only fun because of Darick Robertson.
Yeah. Well, it has a good callback later in the cop episode where they're like, "How did you knock someone out with the bowel disruptor?" It says Shad into unconsciousness, and it has some good moments too. Where it's like when he first accepts Shannon because she says that she built one in high school shop. He's like, "Oh, well, come in then."
Yeah.
The best is when, or like later during that protest when they try to kill all those. That's the other part that is the government undertones in this shit election. There were those moments. I don't know if you were going to get into this anyway, James, where it seemed like this like evil fucking politician guy was like channel. Oh, that was the 50% speech, right?
Well, no, that's the Beast. And then, but the guy that does all this shit later on is the Smiler. So he's the guy that replaced the Beast.
Yeah, but I mean, the politicians are very Trump-like in their absolute, like, they're absolutes. I guess they're. It's just like a horrible outlook on politics and politicians, and just that they're just these subhuman monsters, and that speaks that sort of like prediction part of this spoke loudly and semi-correctly, which was scary.
That's funny, because I guess I come out super opposite. And
really?
I
don't know. Donald Trump looks like a fucking cartoon character. He could slide right into this book.
Well, yeah. He does look like a cartoon character, and theoretically, yeah, but like the Smiler, is just like your empty, vacant, your typical politician who is presented. You know, we don't really see him in the books that we read, but he hates everything, but he acts nice. You know, but he acts like, say, Mike Pence, you know, something like that, or even, you know, I don't know who's John Kerry. Maybe let's say he's like a John Kerry, and the Beast is just like this big thug, and he's not. But like Racist Grandpa is funny. Racist Grandpa is a clown. He's a television personality. Like he's far more.
Racist Grandpa is like a combo of the two of them.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I think if you strain in your eyes, then maybe you could say that. But I think this book doesn't do a good job of actually showing what the politics of the future is going to look like, because, you know, aside, like, because we don't have. You might disagree with me, but like we don't. There's no stormtroopers in America. There's heavy police action, which is always a.
I don't know, man. I disagree with you. Yeah, well, they literally had stormtroopers.
Yeah, it did feel like that at moments. But
they had a militia throwing people into vans like a couple weeks ago. But they were going state to state. It was a horror show.
That is not. They weren't going state to state, but they also like weren't. Mm-hmm. It's not new. America has always been this way, and that's
not
what.
Well,
right. Okay. Well, yeah. That I guess that's
not quite
new,
disappearing people and like rounding them up from protests. And not disappearing in the sense of like permanently, but like detaining someone for a while, like so that they could not be a protester, is, you know, the like a step down from that.
So 1940 or 1950, lawyers were attempting to deal with the consequences of vagrancy law. You know, because it was the way that one would deal with communists. It was the way that one would deal with dissidents. You would say that they were vagrants, and then you would, you know, and there was a whole Supreme Court challenge and that sort of thing. And cops would take those lawyers who showed up into town, and they would drive them out into the desert, and then they would leave them. You know, so like there's nothing about this depiction of America, and this is basically an American story, which I see as a depiction of the future, but more an exaggeration of the past and the present.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And I think you can also see that in his romanticization of Mary, the cryogenic survivor. Like
yes.
The revival. Like that whole thing, like she the history that made us great. Like there's that whole speech, and it really like makes the era of Kennedy and the Berlin Wall falling down as something. Those things are interesting and great, but it really wants to say that like the past was great and the future shit.
And same with the issue about the reservations, which is really like a problematic. Like they have these cultural like preserves where people live in the style that they're accustomed to living in the past. So she's like, like they practice genital mutilation or clitoral mutilation at this place because that was how it was done.
Oh yeah, that was dicey.
And Spider was just like, okay, that's fine. Like, yeah, the truth at all costs, right? And it's like that's not a very spidery sort of attitude. Like it just goes on to asking her out. It's like, where is this coming from? And then like the idea, there's also like an Aztec or no, sorry, a Mayan commune, and it says that every 10 years everyone dies because of the pollution of the water from bodies that they kill. It's like, but they've done it like 3 or 4 times. It's like, what? Why would anyone sign on to do this again? Then it doesn't make any sense.
And what value is it to do it?
What value exactly?
Yeah, like so let's say you are doing it, but like one, you're not gonna. It's not a time machine. So unless like it's just an artificial, it might as well be Disneyland where people like die of sepsis.
Yeah,
it's kind of I guess it's just a gag in the like just like how stupid common people are, and he has Warren has himself a real hatred of just like Joe average behavior.
I think he really idolizes.
That's what the whole thing is, just like sort of like running around and seeing idiots sort of do their own thing.
He does seem to really like fetishize this idea of history being lived out that way, though. Like I feel like it's like he admires something about that. That was my sense, anyway.
Well, yeah, I think James, you're absolutely right that a lot of the story is him. Even actually, there's like explicit self-parody in that same issue when he's at the bar and that guy is harassing Jerusalem about his child having huge. They like his
right.
His cosmetic warts, and that's Warren Ellis. That's Warren Ellis and Darick Robertson at the bar. So they're depicting themselves as these fucking yokels that one day I'm gonna drop a bomb on this city, a contraceptive bomb. But yeah, but like within all that, like it's like I'm not sure if it's a mixed message. I don't know what. It's just if you're gonna say truth at all costs. And I'm glad you pointed that out. Like, I just don't know what the fuck that means, and why is it that you need to like resurrect the past in order to because he does. Oh, I remember my thought. Okay, contrary to his usual treatment of the yokels, he really like sympathizes and feels sad in a basic humanity. Like this is where the humanism of Spider is revealed. And he looks at these people dying and that head rolling down, and he's not shocked. And it's all in Darick Robertson's depiction. He's not shocked. He's not angry. He's just contemplative about the human condition, looking at it. But he seems unable to do that on the street.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's that like history expresses that form as opposed to like something that you can find in the present. But I mean, yeah, obviously the present is fucking itself over. So I mean, there's that part of it too. But I think that kind of touches on one of the big issues I had with this series too, is that I think it may just be the product of the time, but that sort of naive faith that journalism is going to set things right, or like if you get to the truth and tell people, then everything's going to be fine. And it's like now we see all the time, it's like you can expose stories all the time and like just people will just ignore it, or just like even just like cynically just just go along with it, and fine, Trump does that, great, that we're going to vote for him anyway because that's awesome.
He does okay, and I guess in more, because I agree with you about the naivety, but in this story, he does write a column about how the Smiler doesn't believe anything. This is after he has that conversation with the Beast, and the Beast is like, what separates me and him? I may be a beast, but I believe in something, and he doesn't believe in anything. And then Spider writes a column to that effect, and then he's shocked that the truth didn't change the election, and everybody voted for the Smiler.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, I guess we didn't touch on it. I don't think we read that issue, so that would have
Yeah.
probably changed my feeling about it. Okay.
No,
Well,
it's
that's kind of
still naive, though. No, go on. Yeah.
no. I was just gonna say it's not like in a way that's kind of like, I don't know, his portrayal of certain things like the way that media is now and exposing the truth is now, even 10 years later, 20 years later, it is actually not naive. It's accurate. That's happened to social media, Facebook. There's not even any real, like, you don't even know what real there is. It's hard to find anything that you feel like is like a true telling anymore of anything. And that kind of part of his prediction sort of came true. Like, and I know this is like, I keep saying Hunter Thompson because, man, this is it's just like such a riff on that, like, in a big way, and the Hunter does it so much better.
Yeah, we can't lose sight of that. Yeah, you're right.
It's hard to even, like, you know, it's such a different thing, but I mean, like, he's like such a true, I don't know, his journalism was so true, and that was like sort of the death of the last maybe person like that.
Oh man, I can just, like, any actual journalist listening to this is probably stabbing them themselves in the face right now. Like, because like, I agree I like Hunter S. Thompson's writing. I would never say that it's true, you know, like, and that's not the point of it. And maybe that's not the point of what Spider's about.
No, I mean, I get it, that it's an entertainment piece also, but I mean, I just mean, like, it was like the way that it exposed certain things was kind of special, and the like, nowadays, even if you are a true journalist, great, good for you, but that, because of what's happened to social platforms and ads and things like that, you can't break through the way you could back then, and that's no fault of their own, you know.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I'll concede that you can't break through like you could before, but I'm extremely hesitant to say that there's no good journalism out there. I think that you just need to.
Oh no, not that there's no good journalism. That's not what I meant to say. If that's what I exactly said, I just meant it's so cluttered. It's like Spider's future. There's just so much garbage falling. There's shit falling from every angle. There's like a fucking dolphin baby fucking a dog on the side of the road. There's a dildo. There's a this. There's a that. I don't know what the fuck you're doing journalism about. I don't have time for that.
I think when I say it's, because I like, your criticisms, I take it and like, but at the same time, this book still, like, in a future like this, are newspapers still going to exist? I guess that's where I come down on that. Like, that's why I think it's naive. I think that this like, it takes the 23rd century and then it just pretends that we're going to have a columns and newspapers and all, you know, even his computer looks like a typewriter. I don't know if
I think that's I think that's sort of like a stylistic, you know, choice. Like, the future is anything, you know, any product's available, so that's what he writes on. I mean, that's just how I took it.
No one would give a fucking shit if you could, like, interact directly with computers and get your information from pollen and all the things that, like, so take our media landscape and like James is saying, times it divide it by a million or a billion. A voice like Spider's would have an audience of 10,000 and he'd be nothing.
Maybe. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
I don't know.
A very good point.
There's still people who trend. Like, there's still going to be people who are pushing or like are the most popular and things like that. I didn't have a problem with that angle of it. In fact, I didn't even know if they ran a newspaper per se. Like, they'd have a lot of talk about like feed aggregators and stuff like that, and like everything is kind of like coming in, you know, at command. So I don't know. I just assume it's done on multiple platforms.
Yeah, and I'm trying to. I'm not saying the whole thing is like predictably not naive, because it is, but I just said there's some parts where like it speaks true today, and he hit the nail on the head, just like the odd angle, you know. You come around a corner, you see something, and you're like, wow, like isn't that strange that like a sick fantasy could actually be sort of like pushing the envelope of actually happening today, you know. And then I think he had like, you know, maybe he didn't have, or maybe he only had 1 out of 10, you know, of those in his future prediction or whatever. But the ones that he did were good enough to be like, oh, this is, you know, this has something, whatever that is.
The only thing.
Go ahead, James.
Oh, okay. The only thing that strikes me as I really love the cryogenic. Like, despite my complaints about it, I love that cryogenic issue where Mary, you know, she dies and then she's brought back to life, and then the future pretty much drives her insane, and nobody wants her. That strikes me as so true. You know, like maybe if the future doesn't drive people insane, but the future's not going to want fucking refugees from the past. We don't even want refugees from the present. And anyone who puts themselves on ice in the hopes that like the future is going to be a fucking nirvana, please don't do it. You know, you're signing up for hell, and no one's, you know, and yeah. So that's out of all of it, that's the only thing that spoke to me.
I think about that one a lot too. Yeah,
I like the like rundown like hostel that all the people that got brought back.
Oh God, yeah,
in, like bunk beds, and they're all like wide-eyed across the.
It's depressing.
Yeah, just as they went outside, they saw some people were aliens. What do you think?
I do still think about that issue. That was like one thing that really, like, you know, I always thought that it'd be such a cool thing to wake up in the future, and then like seeing that idea of like, oh, like they don't care about you, you're just gonna be like garbage, really like hit me when I was I don't know, teen, and I still come back to that, like thinking about like it almost changed the way I thought about the future in some ways. Another really good part too is when he has that conversation, when he sneaks in and like ambushes the Beast in the washroom, and they have that conversation about just politics in general. And you know, Spider says, you know, there's no real America. You living after birth. There's no real city. All there is what we make of it. You want to make it as a big fucking sore that oozes money like pus. And then the Beast kind of hits back at him like, no one wants compassion. It doesn't sell. You can't make a living off of it. And God, like that, I hate it, but like it's so true. Like that I feel like that conversation is, I don't know, like parts that like war in my head all the time.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know what my thought about that is, other than like, I agree with you. Yeah, I guess that's right. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I thought
I'd have a smarter response to that, but it didn't. It failed. It completely
failed. Well, you know, that's just it. Like there's so much ranting that some of it's true, or some of it feels right, and it's that's like one of those.
If you carpet bomb, you're gonna hit something eventually.
Yeah, I guess that's what this. Actually, you know, okay. So amongst all of that, it's fine. But like, and this gets back to the. I think this is maybe what I was maybe trying to reach for. So I don't know, just the idea that like Spider / Hunter S. Thompson / Warren gets to like grab the president by the neck and throw him into a bathroom stall and make him shit himself. Like a tough guy, you know, like even the depiction of Spider in that moment, it's weird. He just suddenly gains this really thick neck, and he blows smoke out of his nose like a bull, and it just doesn't even look like him. It's just like everything changes for just a panel, maybe two, and then it's just like this power fantasy of you know, telling the politicians that humans are worth something. Yeah. I think it kind of ruined it for me. I like that conversation. I think the book could have done with a lot more of it. And then its resolution is, you know, just obviously turns it into a hilarious joke when he turns the gun to the the gun to prolapse. Several
Would say loose, watery, prolapse.
And yeah, Darick Robertson, like just the panic in the president's eyes.
The dog, oh man, it's just like the shitting themselves. I also like I had like an imagination fantasy of my own when that, what's her name with the giant, his bodyguard?
Shannon.
Shannon.
Yeah, Shannon. She just brains that cop with her baton and smashes his visor open, but just from a side angle, he's also shooting him with the bowel disruptor.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, man, imagine how bad it would be to be just absolutely brained by a gigantic woman and also be just uncontrollably be shitting yourself.
I thought about that. No, I'm looking at the image right now, and like she shot a spear through the guy's shoulder, and then at the same time, Spider's making him shit himself, and the guy's like, "Oh."
Shannon's by far the best character. Like I really wish we had more of. And I guess it's probably in the other episodes, or other issues. But like, yeah, just the idea that she just like get 2 or 3 great issues with her like right up front, and then she like has her kind of like my boyfriend left me moment, and then she's going to join a nunnery like with like Fred Christ, like it just kind of got to me. It's like why are we sidelining me?
Fred. She turns and looks at him and says, "Fred Christ." So fucking stupid.
I'm guessing he must Springer or something like that, like in one of the issues we didn't read. But
I think.
But why does he have to do it? Okay, that's good. That's better.
Yeah, I think she just comes back. Go on.
You've read the whole thing, right?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I've read the whole thing, and then like before talking about this, I borrowed on Hoopla all the bits, and I flipped through them quick just so I could like sort of remind myself.
They never get together. Please tell me that.
Oh no, actually, Spider trolls her one time though, because he fucks Yelena one night. The other one, the young dark-haired girl assistant, and then she's revealed later, and then they make fun of his dick or something at a party, and then later on he does like he makes it. Shannon blacks out, and then Spider gets into her bed and wakes up in the bed with her, and then just he's like, "Gotcha." So anyway, that's as far as it goes.
All right.
Yeah, that would have been stupid.
It really would have been bad.
Yeah,
I was worried it might go that way. Okay.
Yeah, and sleeping with Yelena just becomes kind of a joke because she has a nervous breakdown. She's like, "Nothing happened," and she attacks people who bring it up, and she tries to repress it the whole time.
Gotcha. That's fair.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also loved Stompinato's dick loss.
Yes.
And
his friend.
For those people listening, Stompinato is a dog. Just in case you've never read this. I had a huge wanger. It's weird because he's British. Like it feels like Stompinato's like a British character, surrounded by some Americans.
Like a Judge Dredd kind of dog.
When he wasn't shoving it into women, he was cleaning it.
Yeah. And all the other dogs are just like they're just hanging off his every word. It's fucking awesome. And I love their interactions are really funny. Like this is how I kind of wish the cops were always like. I think throughout the story, the cops just become like literal silent stormtroopers. Like you don't really get a cop perspective except for that one detective.
Yeah.
But I like hearing them. I like this back and forth between cops, like corrupt cops. It's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny stuff. That's always going to be funny to me.
And going back to James's, talking about how the police are depicted here. Detective Newton is pretty interesting, and like I liked all that. Like it almost anticipated body cams because like the sort of how meaningless they are because they mentioned that the patrol. So they had when the what was he like a genetic like he had different
The
sex parts or something like that. Yeah, right.
Something like
that.
that.
Yeah, he's attacked, brutally murdered, and like the cops just kind of like let it happen. And so there's a camera that picked it up, but then she said like they had an EMP burst that knocked it out. So it's kind of like a moment predicting like how useless like you can't trust police footage. But then her thing, like the good cop, quote unquote good cop, like she just says like, oh, like those guys shouldn't have gotten caught. They were stupid. So like, write your story, leave me out of it. So even like the good one is like, that's not a great look. That's not a good opinion.
Yeah, everyone Spider interacts with any authority figure or like, and I think this goes back to the criticism of like truth, no matter what, like if. Well, I don't know if it's criticism, but like everyone's corrupt in the way that you're describing, or everyone's playing an angle. But I think that, like maybe the problem with this series is that like they don't really call attention to the fact that Spider also is playing an angle.
That's exactly it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because like I think a way that I could enjoy this series more is the question. Like if it hung on the question, can like a horrible person do good socially? I think that would be interesting. But I again, it's like it always goes back to like Spider hero worship, where the like what happens in the text takes a sharp detour from that. Like by issue 12, like here's a guy who like sent a 16-year-old girl in to like expose like some like sex ring and like let her like get whatever brainwashed into joining an orgy, and like now we're still supposed to see this guy as some hero. There's got to be some sort of like accounting for that, it feels like.
No, I think a lot of that too is like that's just like them. I don't know if he's trying to like, it's just like a dark thing, like, and they're trying to humanize his mistakes, I guess, or his perspective on his mistakes. I don't know. That was, like you said, that was impossible to come back from.
Yeah,
it was damning. Like I think that's the way he described it initially.
I think the way that they deal with it is because later on, it's a Chekhov's gun situation. Like in the issues that we read, that eye pollen thing that happens to him in one of the reservations, which incidentally, like, what a poorly chosen name for what goes on. But we'll put that aside. That causes him to have, like even in another one, he talks about how he's getting headaches later on in one of those like issues where it's just all like text. There's a bit, I've been getting headaches lately, and so that's by issue 30. And then by issue like 50, it's revealed that he's got like an Alzheimer's type thing coming on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, like it's meant to, I think that's the way the text goes. Like instead of saying like it constantly wants to argue that being a bastard works, whatever the fuck that means. And again, I'd like to go back to this being a confession for Warren.
Yeah.
Because I think that really, from his perspective, it seemed to be working. But that's not interesting. And I don't even know if it's sadly, maybe it's true, but it's not narratively interesting. It's not dramatically interesting. They could have, but then it wouldn't be fun. And this book's fun.
Yeah.
That's its primary, like.
I think that's true. There's a huge over-the-top impulse to terror. In the first, we didn't cover it, but the first issue, like he pulls out a rocket launcher and blows up a bar as he's on his way to the city. It's like everything's like 200% toned up, like ridiculous.
Yeah.
I was gonna say too, like, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, just to cycle back quick to that the police footage thing, and like how they have like technology everywhere and everything is seen, but like he says like, oh, where's the footage from this blah blah blah, the bus shelter cam or the bus cam that would have picked up this whole thing and the body and everything, right? So they have like 100 cameras on any chunk of the sidewalk, right? But it doesn't really matter if the police decide to do something corrupt with the footage or just spin their own story. And I just feel like that's another moment that's like true now. I think of that kid that crossed over the border or whatever at 16 years old, an AR-15 to a couple of protesters, and then got touted as a patriot. Got the best lawyers in the country. You know what I mean? Like, there's a fucking small video of him as a domestic terrorist. Like, there's a movie of it, but that it got spun. Like, it's use when the footage comes out. Even though we have footage of everything now, it's the future. If it goes somewhere where politically we don't really want that to be handled in the way that it is, then we just tell a different story now to go with it, and it gets backpacked.
Yeah,
that's kind of like one of the another like just sort of a predictive moment there that I thought was okay, but anyway.
I think you're right about that, and maybe what's going on there?
I don't know.
A little dada happened.
That was my phone charger.
They're listening. The fucking Tim Cook, he's upset. So here's why it doesn't. So maybe this goes back to, but I think this just reinforces my thesis that this is not about the future, and it's not about prediction. It's about the present. Because I think even in Warren's, even back then, I don't think all he really needs to do is look at Fox News and just like extrapolate from there, like just a little bit. But in this future, so if there's cameras everywhere, and if the police are totalitarian, and if there's, like if everything is this corrupt, I guess I think in a future like this, I find it difficult to imagine that it wouldn't be an extremely authoritarian state, a la China. Like when you reach this level of interconnectivity and surveillance, I'm not sure there's room for a world like this anymore.
You know what? Actually,
that might just be my own bias.
I think going to your point, James, like in Britain, I know for a fact that they have like closed caption TVs like everywhere on street corners and stuff like that. And I think going to that point that it's talking about his present, that's probably one of the things that's on his mind as they were setting up those surveillance networks. And it isn't, Britain isn't that sort of surveillance, like it is a surveillance state, but not like a totalitarian one in the same sense that China is.
Yeah. But it's also not a fucking crazy fuckfest where everybody's terrible.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Right. It's not America.
Yeah.
Like I can see. So I guess maybe that's why I find it. And it's stupid to say. It's really stupid to say in a book like this, but I just kind of find it difficult to believe. But Warren approaches it in one of the issues that we didn't, or addresses it in, or says it explicitly in one of the issues we haven't read. You know that, Chris, you might know this from the Invisibles, like that idea of the various types of civilizations, type 3's.
Right, sure,
cosmic, type 2 interplanetary, whatever. There's he talks, Spider's giving one of his rants or whatever, and he's just like, this is still a type 0 civilization, in the sense that, we haven't become star people or anything like that. And sorry, I think this comes to maybe I think my attitude toward this book expresses some of my own fears or biases, because like I see two possibilities for the future. One, progress, one in the sense that we do become star people, or two, we become a black hole of absolute control and or oblivion. And this book kind of posits that, like, no, it's just going to be the same bullshit forever. Maybe that's more true.
That's kind of like that. That's sad and dark, but I mean, I think that sadly, Warren's depiction of the future has a more likely chance of coming true than star people. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. No, that's I didn't tell you how I weigh the odds on either.
Just that you want to be a star person.
Yeah, I would really enjoy the star person.
or at least some form of progress.
Yeah, something, Maybe,
Yeah, I like that cynical angle on sci-fi, that like sort of like we are what we are. We're always gonna fuck things up, and like it's gonna be the same shit. That I enjoy that.
Keep going.
More surprises.
Oh, yeah. Big surprise. Huge surprise.
Join Chris and I next week for our ongoing Invisibles commentary. And then, Sometime shortly after that, come on back for some more Chuck Watch as we dive deep into Nightfall and see how Jean-Paul Valley handled the mantle of the Bat. And if you're new to the Extinction Agenda, consider leaving us a review or dropping us a line. We're kind of curious about who you people are and why you're listening to us, and what you could possibly get out of it. Particularly, I'm interested in the numerous people who are downloading the new or the old Astro City episode. I want to know who you people are. Why are you coming to us? We're really happy to have you, but yeah, did it get posted somewhere? What's going on? Yeah, I don't know. See you next time.
Now, all we need is a little energon and a lot of luck.